And now something completely different.
Good afternoon. I'm speaking to you live just outside.
I like to think balding is just God's way of saying, now let's see you get laid.
Is it true that if you don't use it, you lose it?
What I'd really like to do is put the greatness of this man in perspective.
The hair loss community has a lot to be thankful for, having you as a spokesperson.
You mean you just call this guy up?
About life and about reality.
And now, America's #1 reality radio show for men. Live from Los Angeles, it's Spencer Kobren's The Bald Truth.
Hey guys, welcome to the show. That was loud. 888-659-3727. Thank you so much for hanging out for our Friday edition of The Bald Truth. We made it within our 15-minute allotment, our 15-minute late time frame, even though we started the show an hour late. But
self-imposed.
Yeah, but that was scheduled. We put that on the schedule for you guys to know in advance that we would be late for the broadcast. In all honesty, I actually just literally got out of the shower, did probably the fastest 4.5-minute blow dry on hot, which is not great for my hair, but I did it. And, made it here.
Let me pour out a for any follicles that were damaged. Pour out a 40.
Would you do that?
During that hot hair dry.
There's a little bit of extra TLC, but I'll figure that out during a break, which we don't take, by the way. So, guys, listen, we're live. This is the Hair Loss Show. It's Friday edition. Give us a call, 888-659-3727, if you want to talk about anything and everything hair loss. I am your host, and this is your co-host. And you can't see him if you're listening on Stitcher Radio, iTunes Radio, iHeartRadio, or the other all of the other audio platforms, because that's what they're called now. And I was actually criticized for saying that this is broadcasting, because it's not being currently broadcast on or through radio waves. And I'm like, what the fuck is the difference? We're still producing a program that is being casted out in a broad sense to countless people who are listening on what people currently listen to. And that's not radio. That's not the airwaves. I actually heard an ad on, and I know I'm on iHeartRadio, but it was an iHeartRadio ad essentially saying that radio receives more viewers or more listeners or, attention than Google. And I am like, oh my God, whoever wrote that copy is either living in a home at this point or is completely delusional.
They said there's more listeners to terrestrial radio than there are users of Google?
Than there are, either users of Google or people listening through Google, whether they're searching for shows, podcasts, whatever. I don't know exactly how they phrased it, but it was Google and radio was more. That was it.
That person is mentally challenged.
Now,
because there's no way.
Will I
I
personally
haven't listened to radio in at least 6 months.
Will I get a email from someone over at iHeart saying, "What are you doing? We're trying to sell radio"? I don't think that I will, because they need programming.
Does iHeartRadio actually broadcast on terrestrial waves?
They do.
Did not know that.
Yes. So,
but they're utilizing the interwebs to make that happen.
That's
correct?
Exactly correct.
Then there you go. They got the best of both worlds.
So it's actually iHeartMedia. Okay, so iHeartMedia owns iHeartRadio, and also they broadcast on terrestrial radio. So they're using airwaves, and they're using old school radio stations, which is great. I missed that. I mean, I essentially have an old school radio station right here in my place. This is a studio that is equipped to broadcast on radio. I can send this feed up to satellite. I could send it through ISDN. I could send it through the internet to any radio station in the country. As a matter of fact, I will be doing that next week for a special program. And, I even hate to put this out. We have so many enemies that I even hate to put shit like this out in advance. But I'm not going to tell you the network that it's going to be on until it's done. But, yeah, and actually there's a specific kind of a platform that is internet-based now where radio guys can broadcast their signal through the internet, and then it's put up through the radio, I was going to say antennas, but they are called receivers.
But if you don't tell everyone listening now, then they don't know where to tune in.
They don't have to. The people who tune in are already listening to radio. That's great. These people don't need to tune in. They're listening to us right now.
Okay, so it'll be our show or something else you're doing?
It will not be our show, unfortunately. Every once in a while, Joe, I know it's hard for you to believe, but the media just wants to speak to me.
What?
I know that fucks you up.
How do they even know about you?
I know. If it wasn't for you, how the fuck would they know about me?
I mean, it's like, come on.
That's the first thing I said to him. I'm like, you positive you're not trying to reach Joe Tillman?
Yeah, you're not trying to reach Joe Tillman?
Anyway, guys, the phone number is 888-659-3727. If you want to call this broadcast, we are doing it live. That's why we're here at the end of a Friday, which is it's almost happy hour for me here in Los Angeles. I chose not to go out last night when I had a wonderful opportunity to do so because I had to fucking work. I had several articles that I have a deadline that are essentially a month late. I mean, I made one deadline, so I'm happy about that. I had to get that done, and I also had to record some segments. So I'm kind of making up for some decisions that I made earlier in the week to get some work done. But if you guys don't call in, I'm just going to go. There's really no point in me being here. And the phones light up. Can't even get a break. 888-659-3727. What's that, Joe?
They fell for it. You use the classic. If there's no phone calls, we're going away.
I'm gonna
Bam.
I'm gonna give a guy who I don't know if he actually gives me much props or thinks about me at all. Probably not. But I'm going to give this guy his credit because I do not. One thing I hate is when people steal from me, whether it's just conceptual stuff, whether it's some of my language, whether it's literally taking my content and also my writing. So this guy deserves his credit. Tom Likas, who is no longer doing his live streaming broadcast, but is still doing a podcast. And that's exactly what he would say. He would go into that studio, which the guy was paying a fortune for, in my opinion, for what he was doing. But he chose to run his business the way that he ran it. And if no one would call in, he said, look, we will stay here, and I will pay my guys for as long as I get phone calls. And if I don't get phone calls, I'm leaving. And the only reason someone says that is because they're not getting phone calls. So I'm like, that's fucking brilliant. Because when I was on radio, you would never, a program director would come in literally with a sock full of flour and hit you over the head. If you were to say, we had no call or somebody call in. You had to vamp and you had to make believe that you had a full board at all times. Otherwise, they would say it wasn't even like the failure of the radio station, which it actually was, because it usually wasn't the failure of the host.
Yeah, because they had to promote it.
Exactly.
They didn't promote it properly.
Exactly. But they did not want that information out there. But anyway, guys, this is the Hair Loss Show. It's great to be here on a Friday, kind of. And we're going to get straight to the phones, take your questions, answer your, any concerns that you have. But remember, if you are considering surgical hair restoration, if you have surgery scheduled for, actually, you can schedule it for Saturdays and Sundays now. People are so desperate. But if you have surgery scheduled for tomorrow or for Monday, even if you put down a deposit, call us first. We will give you the information you need to figure out whether or not you want to go through with this. Because let me tell you, man, you have at least an 80% chance, if not more, of making the wrong decision that will affect your life in a way that you can never imagine. It's not like, yeah, you know what, the grafts didn't grow, I got a guarantee, blah, 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 blah. When you're cut and those grafts, those finite grafts are removed and destroyed or implanted in a fucked up way, you don't get a second chance, my man. That's it. That shit is done. Done, cooked, and over. It's not like a rhinoplasty, which still, when you go in for revision surgery of any kind, things are more difficult. But I would say 99.9% of botched rhinoplasty surgeries can be fixed to the point where someone is actually satisfied as if it was their first surgery.
Yep.
Not so much with hair.
Nope.
Let's take a phone call. Hey, man, you're on the air. Who's this and where are you calling from?
Lewis from South Florida.
Lewis, what's happening, man?
Hello,
how are you?
What's going on, the Batman and Robin of the truth?
I like that, man. I wish I had that on
Nobody's ever
Instagram
called
right
you
now.
that before. I had to come up with something new. I'm over here in South Florida. It rains in the summer. In the afternoon, you can put your clock on time because of the rain. So I'm thinking of new things to call you. So I thought about that just when I was waiting for you guys to pick up.
Well, as long as you don't call us Shirley. How old am I to say that?
Don't call me Shirley.
That is an old fucking joke.
Most of the listeners have no idea where that comes from.
They have no clue. Or Susquehanna hats. Yeah.
Was on Real Self the other day. I was just trying to see what they were all about.
Were you really?
Why?
I always want to see what they're saying they are and then really seeing what they really are. So anyways, I went on there, and there was this one young guy, I think he was like 22 years old, who had a hair transplant.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you've been on the site or not, but it's kind of like they tell their story, and then people can come in and give their reviews, right? And talk to the person who is telling the story. So I went on, and I told them my opinion, a very vanilla opinion, by the way, that I thought it was kind of dangerous for young guys to have a hair transplant because they don't know how bald they're going to be. It's very hard to tell.
Yeah.
And I put in like maybe 3 or 4 reviews as the guy was telling me stuff. He got very defensive right off the bat. He was like,
"Now wait a second. This guy was live?"
No, it's not live. They put on a review. Somebody starts telling that story. They put on their photographs, and they tell their story. I went to Turkey and had this hair transplant. I'm 22 years old or whatever, and this is what happened to me. So I just said, you know what? This guy is 22 years old. He seems to be happy right now. He said he was like 85% happy.
Yeah,
but I put in there
85% at 22 means 0% at 42.
Yeah, nothing.
Yeah.
What does he know? He doesn't know anything, which is why I put on a review for other guys because other guys are reading this, and sure enough, there was like another 23-year-old guy who was saying, "Oh my God, I'm glad you're doing this because I'm thinking of doing the same thing and having a transplant and stuff like that." So I thought to myself, because I've been through a terrible transplant story, so I thought, I'll just put on there, you should probably wait a little bit because you never know how bald you're going to be that young.
Right.
So he got real defensive and said, "I've already had the hair transplant. Why are you going to say this?" Because as you guys say a lot of times, these guys want to hear what they want to hear. They don't want to hear anything else. And I was mainly putting there for other people, not to put him down, but just so when other people look at it, they don't think, oh, this guy's 23 years old, he's happy with it, so let me go ahead and jump into it. And I'm 22.
Well, here's the thing, and this is very important. I've always tried to avoid on the message forums guys from the peanut gallery critiquing other people who've had hair transplants. But in this particular situation, I think that it actually may be necessary, especially when we're dealing with the new way that hair transplants are being marketed through these pay-per-play so-called social media sites.
Right.
Most of these guys giving reviews, or some of these guys giving reviews, have been asked to provide that review on Real Self by their physician, possibly for a discount. Now, I'm not saying all of them, but that's a very common practice. I'm a big fan of the business model as far as just from a pure entrepreneurial standpoint. This guy, Tom Seary, killed it with Real Self. Got to give him his props. But he is not in the business that we're in. We are in the business of providing what we know to be as the truth of this field. He may not know shit. He doesn't, that's not his concern. His concern is signing up as many doctors as possible, getting those monthly checks, and
promoting cosmetic surgery
and
promoting
promoting plastic and cosmetic surgery. Now, the ads that I see on Facebook are fucking appalling. And frankly, if back in 1995 this fucked up field would have allowed the FTC to intervene, none of this would be happening, because they are showing people, without saying this is a model, they're showing people that with full heads of hair, young people and also older guys, as the image, and making statements such as, before you shave your head, speak to contact a trusted hair transplant surgeon.
Yeah, verified.
Well, they said verified. I don't know if they're saying verified now. I don't know if that's on the site.
That's what they do now. It's verified. That's the word they're using.
It's fucking that is repugnant.
But you know what happened, Senator?
Yeah.
They took down my my comments. They thought they were.
I was waiting for that. I was waiting for you to say that.
Hold on. Say that again.
They took down my comments to this guy. They actually took them down. It said it offended their code or whatever.
It violated their terms of service.
Violated their code and conduct or whatever the deal of the thing is. And it was vanilla. It was like I was doing it just so if another young person looks at this guy, he doesn't jump into just doing surgery because this guy is all about, this is great. This is how, and he doesn't know what he's talking about.
In all fairness, we have a very strong terms of service, and if that was written on my site, depending on how it was written, it probably would have been removed as well. I don't know. I don't know exactly how you wrote it.
It was vanilla. What my problem with is it, in my opinion, these guys are promoting themselves as real reviews that you can trust.
Yeah.
Well, let me tell you, I've done some stuff on the internet and sold some stuff on eBay and all this kind. When a review goes up, if the guy slams you, if you're a seller and a buyer for whatever lies about you, they won't take it down.
Yeah.
Their philosophy is, in the long run, with enough reviews, the truth comes out.
Well, and that's true, actually, and I appreciate that, and I think it's a mixed bag. We don't actually have the opportunity, give people the opportunity to critique other people's hair transplants, because on our site, these are not people who are giving reviews. Now, if you'll notice, you don't see a lot of that stuff, because most of these so-called reviews that come on our site, we know are spam. So we just take them off completely. So we don't even allow the conversation to happen. So
even if they're not, I wasn't really personally reviewing the guy. I wasn't saying your hair plan is great or not. I was just trying to, in my little spot of trying to tell the truth. So some other 23-year-old comes in there and kind of sees, hey, wait a minute, I may not want to get this when I'm so young.
Look, honestly, the way that you're explaining it, it is repugnant, especially since this is exactly what this website is doing. This website is marketing
I know that.
hair transplants now, and they're marketing.
That's why we need guys like you, because I found it somewhat going through that. You can put reviews on Yelp, all kinds of. They'll never take them down. Almost never take them down.
Yeah.
Or they have to have such a good. And I don't have a problem with it, but when this site will tell you it's one of its key brands, it wants to say it's their real reviews, meaning like, well, hell, I can go over there and I'll see real reviews that, they're not censoring. In my opinion, they're censoring them. Yes, I don't want to, if somebody's putting their photos up there, you got to be sensitive to the person. You're not going to tell them, oh, you dickhead, what did you do? But to put a comment in there that may help somebody else, I thought would be something that they might want to do.
Yeah, I mean, if I would have gone that route, I probably would have said, listen, it looks like you may have lucked out. You look pretty good, but in general, most guys your age don't make great candidate for hair transplant surgery. And
it's kind of what I said.
Oh, that's
kind of what I said.
Yeah,
was really vanilla. I wasn't attacking the guy. I was just saying, look, you should think about other people should think about when they do it so young. I wasn't even really critiquing his hair transplant, how it turned out or not. I was just saying my point of view. My point is that if Real Self is promoting itself as where you can come and get true information, where I can come and get true information is from you guys.
Well,
there I can get true information.
I will tell you this, that I actually know physicians whose staff answer questions as physicians on Real Self. That is a fact.
Yeah.
That is a fact.
And they have it,
if in fact that company wanted to say, wait a second, you can't say that. How do you know that's true? I would be able to produce a significant amount of evidence showing that that's the case. And there would be doctors who would say, yeah, absolutely. We have our main marketing person, or we have our main technician who understands the nuances of the surgery, answering questions for us. Most of these doctors are not spending their time answering these questions. In some cases they are, but in some cases it depends on how desperate they are. If they're busy, they're not.
Mm-hmm. Well, they end up, they have a clause that says, they can take off any review, no questions asked, at their discretion.
Yeah, and that's smart. That's smart fucking business, man. Listen,
it is for business. I'm telling you, I'm like you. If it comes for an entrepreneurial look at it, he's killing it.
Yeah,
killing it. My problem is that I went through a lot of regret from my story of what happened to me. So when I try to go out there and try to leave a review, not to put someone down, but to save some other person to at least look around and think about it, especially these young people that don't really have that much experience. And then the comment gets taken down, and these guys are promoting themselves as real reviews from real people. It kind of bothers me that, people don't know that, hey, these guys are censoring their reviews.
Well, the reality is, and you're absolutely correct about that, the reality is, and I think that's why information has to get out there, and it has to be done in a very specific way. Listen, I'm not here to try to interfere with someone's right to do business. But when it comes to people being harmed because of irresponsible, irresponsible business tactics or irresponsible business practices, or misleading business practices, I think there's something that could be really, there's a line that's being crossed there. There really is. Now, who's really at fault? I blame the doctors. I don't even blame the website owners. Website owners are in it, just like
they're in business. They're in business. They're
right. The doctors that support a site like that, in my view, and many guys in the IHS do, and many guys in other, because they think that they need to, I think that they're the ones that are doing harm. I think that these are the guys that are perpetuating, and just like they did 20 years ago, and some of them still do. These are the guys that supported the true evil that has evolved in this field on the internet. I'm talking about online terrorism, extortion, shit that you guys would never fucking believe. These doctors pay for this to happen so that they can get some fucking leads. I mean, I don't mean to keep.
They're complicit. They're complicit.
They're complicit. I don't mean to cut you off, but I've spoken to guys. You know, you can say somebody is a fucking murderer, and you know, I have to tell you, I'm not saying that this is close, but there's a couple of guys in this industry that have done some really fucked up things, illegal things, immoral. What most people would consider immoral. I mean, I'm a libertarian, so I don't really give a shit. But you know, I can tell you this: that they would never, ever be employable in any other industry.
Terrible.
That's just the way that it is. And these doctors are like, well, you know what? It's bad, but we get leads.
What they're doing it for just to make the money in the business. You understand?
That's the only reason they're doing it. And even some of these doctors, they know they find out.
I'm going to let you talk. I'm just going to put the camera on you. I gotta take a test.
They know what's going on in many of these cases, but they're too afraid to disassociate themselves from these from these outlets for fear of loss. That's one of the things that drives these should I say allows some of these outlets to continue to operate is the fear of loss. And the way they present themselves to the clinics is, well, you know, if you leave, then, you know, just imagine how many leads you're going to lose. When in reality, they're only getting maybe a few per month anyway. And it's always been surprising to me. You know, when a lot of these clinics, if they were to stop and really drill down what the benefit is to their practice, it surprises me that they're still afraid of the loss of just a few of those leads. And it goes even deeper because a lot of these clinics don't even know how to utilize the resources that they are a part of. Like when I was a consultant, I used these resources to really set the clinic I was working for apart from the competition, and it was easy to do. I was using my resources proactively instead of reactively, and you know, it comes down to where the leads. I don't even like talking about leads because it's such a it's such a superficial thing. It's like there's the business aspect of it, the ethical and medical aspects all involved with this, and it's a mess. But looking at these resources just as lead generators is, number one, it's lazy, and it's a bit shallow. I mean, there's a lot more to using legitimate resources proactively as opposed to reactively. You know, pay your membership at some resource and just let it do its thing. It doesn't work like that. Like if you're smart, if you know what you're doing, you'll be proactive with these resources and not just sit back and, you know, think it's going to, you know, do something for you, because it doesn't.
It doesn't. And you got the long-term view, and plus you're an ethical person from everything I've ever heard you say and do, and your websites and everything like that. I was going to mention to you, because I got to get out of here and I got to go to dinner, but one thing you might think of is maybe suggest buddy how to do
you're cutting out there, buddy.
Am I cutting out? Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you now. Start over with suggesting what?
That one thing you might want to put out there in your website that people can learn is how to make good decisions, no matter hair transplant or whatever. And one of the main concepts of making good decisions in life is that when you're given a problem, you got hair loss. Okay, you go and look at somebody who tells you, here's the solution, and this is why it works. And then you need to go and ask somebody who's going to tell you, no, that's not how it works, and this is my problem with it, and you shouldn't do it. You should always look for somebody who tells you the positive sides and the negative sides. And these young guys, and my review kind of showed me this, they get real upset when you tell them something about, you know, you may have made the wrong thing, or maybe you should look at this another way. But in a good decision-making process, you want to know the good part, somebody who advocates for it, and someone who says, no way, don't do it. And then you make it. These guys don't do that. They just go right to what people tell them to.
Here's the challenge with that, and sorry to cut you off, but the challenge with that is twofold. Number one, younger people don't want to be, you know, they're already insecure in their own skin as it is. Like a 22-year-old kid, I'm sorry. There's no 22-year-old kid that's got his shit together so much to where he's actually truly a confident person on in his day-to-day life or her day-to-day life. They're still finding their footing, right? And so when they've made a decision like this that they're hoping will do whatever they're hoping it will do for them, the last thing they want is someone coming along and saying you made a mistake. And that may or may not have been your wording to that effect, but that's essentially what you're saying. And so so they're going to react more aggressively because of that, because you're inserting an uncertainty in their decision that they weren't expecting. But back to your first point, finding someone that will say no, that's the last thing these people are going to do. Because for two reasons. One, because they're not going to find anyone that says no, because they're going to be looking at price first, and everyone that's got the lower prices is going to say yes. Okay, let's just get that out of the way right now. That's what's going to happen. And anyone that does say no, they're just going to look at them as, oh, well, you're just telling me that because you don't want to do it or you can't do it. Like people justify things all the time, even though they shouldn't. You know, they should. You know, it's very rare to find someone that will, say go to 5 consultations. It's rare to find someone that would go to 5 consultations, but anyone that does go to 5 consultations, it would be rare to have them say they all said yes and this guy said no. The guy that said no must know something these other 5 guys don't. They're not going to think of it like that, right? I mean, it makes sense. I understand what you're saying, and it makes a lot of sense. But most younger people today aren't going to see it like that.
My story comes from, well, number one, that I've been in business, so I kind of do that a little bit. When I've got a decision to make, that's a big decision. I want to hear the positives and I want to hear the negatives. Not necessarily tell me no and tell me yes, but there's positives for everything and negatives for everything. I remember a story on 60 Minutes, I think it was, when the meltdown of the financial meltdown in 2008. This one investor guy made like billions of dollars on shorting these mortgage things they were doing.
Yeah.
And he was like, that was his profession. He was like, man, this is going to blow up. I can see it right here. But to make sure that he was right, he actually went to the mortgage companies and sat down with the guys and said, tell me why I'm wrong, why this ain't going to happen. Tell me why this is not going to explode. And they told him basically they didn't know. They just, they didn't give him a good answer to that. And because of that, he said, forget it. I'm going to put down here, I'm going to short this. And the guy made like billions of dollars when the mortgage just went crazy because they were giving mortgages to people that couldn't afford them.
Well, let me tell you this.
He went out and sought somebody to tell him, why is my thinking here? What's going to happen? Why is my hair transplant that I'm thinking is going to be great for me? Tell me why it's not going to be great for me. Why it won't work? And I think that's a good way to make a decision. And I will wish more people would do it. And when they do cosmetic surgery.
Well, the fact that you left that review, or the fact that you left that commentary on that guy's hair transplant review on Real Self, and it was a vanilla commentary. You didn't say anything that was inappropriate, as far as you weren't trying to make the guy feel bad. You weren't trying to say that his work looked like shit. You just said you wanted to warn younger people that, hey, listen, this guy may have had a decent result, or this guy may be happy after a short period of time at the age of 22, but most guys won't be. And this is what you have to watch out for. The fact that Real Self removed your review, I just think speaks volumes. But I also understand that Real Self is a business, and they are in business to essentially help physicians sell surgery. I wouldn't say, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's promoting. I personally think, if from what I put on there, which was basically what you just said, I mean, it was my review was just basically what you just said, Spencer, and they took it down. I was so surprised, and I did it not to negatively affect this guy. Did it for the next guy who's reading it so that he sees the other side a little bit. Didn't review the guy's hair transplant, didn't do his decision or anything. Just said that young people should think about doing this so early because you don't know how bald you're going to be.
Well, I just think that's.
I'm saying somewhere down the line, I'll tell you first, Real Self, they're going to get them for this because I don't know Real Self a lot. I probably know of them about a year, and now for the past 2 weeks or so, I've been kind of looking into it and stuff. But they promote themselves as real reviews, like this a review you can trust. If you're taking reviews down for the easiest things in the world, and you say on your site after you go into your code of violations or whatever, when I read it, that they reserve the right to take down whatever they want at any time they want. That's not a real review to me. Not from what I've seen from the internet, where you can you go to sites and for them to take down a review, something really bad has to happen.
Well, I think there has to be limits, like with Bald Truth Talk. Listen, you can't defame anybody, or you can't
Right. Yeah,
obviously
I'm not about defaming and all that other stuff.
hate speech and just going out there to try to somehow just
Spencer, it was just like what you said. I mean that was what surprised me. Yeah, you can't defame anybody, and you can be sued by defaming somebody. Number one,
not if you're anonymous, and not if you don't get
that. It was basically verbatim what you said. It was just like that. Nice, just making a point.
Yeah, but making that point doesn't help. Especially if they gave the name of the surgeon who performed the surgery, it doesn't help that paying surgeon. So this is a company that is in business, and I give them their props, and they do very well to make money. They're not in business, in my view, to be advocates for patients. That's it. And I don't even think they're in business necessarily to be advocates for physicians.
I've been, a little bit into the marketing world. I've owned businesses before. And my take on their brand was, this is somewhere you can go and get real reviews and make a real decision of real reviews. And what I found that wasn't the case. If you're taking down such vanilla reviews, then you're
Dude, you're breaking up. But listen, anyone who, and I've said this before, who is stupid enough to go onto a commercial website of that magnitude. Yeah, we're here. Can you hear me?
Okay, sorry.
Yeah. Anybody who goes on a commercial website of that magnitude to make a decision to have surgery is a fucking moron. Period.
And they got like a $40 million venture capital firm put money into them in 2018, so they're going to get even.
And listen, good for Tom Siri. Listen, I'm going to give you a story. About 6 years ago, I was contacted by Mr. Siri, and he wanted to see if there was a way that we could work together to kind of build his hair transplant portion of the site. And I was like, listen, man, honestly, if you were willing to just promote physicians who are vetted and who are members of the International Alliance of Hair Restoration Surgeons and who really give a shit about patients, then absolutely, we can find ways to work together. I'd be more than happy to give you some insight. And the decision was, obviously, that's very limiting for him, and I understood that. So I did say, listen, I'm doing this pilot show called Plastic Surgery Live. If you want to get involved in some capacity with that, we can maybe try to work something out. And he was like, sure, love to get this done. So the very first live broadcast of Plastic Surgery Live was streamed on Real Self. And this is the truth. It's out there on the internet. I actually, we're able to see exactly where viewers are coming from. They promoted it. They did all kinds of stuff. They got it out, I think, on their homepage. And we had exactly one viewer at the time from Real Self, and the Bald Truth had something, I don't know, it wasn't that many because it was plastic surgery, but I had it on the Bald Truth. It was like maybe 600 people because it was a unique show. So that was the first live broadcast of Plastic Surgery Live, where we actually did what this doctor was calling a liquid facelift, which I hated the term, and I said that I wouldn't repeat that term. But I'll tell you how fucked up the experience was for me. A few hours before we were supposed to go live, or maybe it was a day before. I don't remember exactly. They had a guy by the name of Grant Stevens, who is currently the past president of the of ASAPS, one of the cosmetic surgery organizations that really only work with board certified plastic surgeons. Real Self tried to do their own live gig. First, they had their guy try to get into my studio, and I'm like, no, that's not going to happen. Then they tried to do their own live gig before we did our live gig, and it was an abject failure. I never forget. Before this all happened, this is the truth. So I'm speaking the truth. So if Tom is listening, it's just the way that it is. When I was talking about what I was doing with plastic surgery, he goes, "Well, you don't intend on stepping on Real Self's toes, do you?" I'm like, "It wasn't my intention." And then the very next week, he tries to step on our toes, in my opinion, by going live, which was an abject failure. And when I talked to him about it that day, he's like, well, yeah, and he kind of like giggled, and he's like, well, you definitely schooled us in the live arena. And I'm like, you're damn right I did. But just that experience alone from the get-go, and this was the courting stage, was not a good one, man. I had to step back and say, if this is what's happening during the courting stage, I can't even imagine what would happen if I actually got involved. And as big as Real Self has become, and I do not regret not getting involved with this company.
Spence, you guys are. I wish you guys would have got the $40 million instead of them. And I gotta go, but
my job is to keep the $40 million, not to get the $40 million for venture capital. So fuck that. It's not something I'm interested in.
But I was disappointed.
What was that? Go ahead.
Because I thought it was somewhere that was kind of pushing a little bit more to giving consumers, good information. In some ways they do. I was taken aback a little bit on how they were just taking reviews off as they thought, would hurt their business.
This is what I think. I know you got to go, and I got to take some more calls, but I think that it is a great resource to kind of get an idea of what these surgeries can do for a person if they're a good candidate. I think it's a great way to when you register, to see as many before and after images as you can. I think that everyone just needs to keep in mind that this is a site that markets physicians, and there's nothing wrong with that, but that's what it is. So whether it's 5 stars or awards or top docs or verified docs or whatever the verifications that they're using right now, it's all about churning out as much income as possible. And again, I am a capitalist. I am an entrepreneur. I totally get this, and I do not.
Still there?
Yeah, you're still there. And I do not blame this company for doing what they do. Who I do blame are the physicians who support these types of websites. They are the guys that are destroying their own field. They are the guys that are putting the nails in their own coffins because they're creating a space where they're now forced to compete with anyone with an MD and a DO who hangs up a shingle and calls themselves a fucking cosmetic surgeon.
Yeah. Well, like I said, if when this information gets out, what I thought was information, that they're taking down reviews that are vanilla, then they're going to have a backlash on, in my opinion, people going there and saying, well, these guys, these reviews I can really trust because they're taking reviews off as they feel it's appropriate so they can have business, which is fine if they said it, on the top of their website. Maybe, we take off any review we feel is inappropriate, but they don't. They hide it. And so I think they're going to get a backlash sooner or later.
Well, I think that's a good suggestion.
Yeah, a guy like me or somebody like yourself, you probably guys won't do it. somebody else with a lot of resources or a competitor somewhere down the line will take them up on this. And I can see it as a social media backlash where, people are going to Real Self to give reviews that they can trust, according to quote unquote trust their website, and they're taking them down. Every review is reviewed supposedly what I read, and whatever they think is inappropriate. And like I said, what you said at the beginning of when we first about the review, vanilla as that, they took it down. It was incredible, in my opinion. And you guys do such a good job of telling the truth, and I get pissed off. I understand there's a business, but you guys are a business too, but still you've been able to kind of step away and not get greedy and give people a real look and real stuff, real information that they can make a good decision on.
Well, I'm going to be completely candid with you. I just figured out a way, and I've said this from the beginning of my career. I always believe there's a lot more money to be made in good medicine than in what everyone else is doing. Most people just have not been able to figure that out. I figured it out, and I don't hide that fact. That's it. I figured it out. Yeah. Could I make more in the short term? And would I have made more in the short term? Yes, absolutely. I mean, my very first year on the radio, I was offered from a large chain clinic $3,000 per personal endorsement. They wanted 2 personal endorsements per market. That was $60,000 just to say, I like so-and-so. Every fucking show. And I was a kid. But I knew.
You would own your own island by now.
What was that?
You would have owned your own island by now.
But the reality is, no. It would have been short term, and the long game has served me well, period. Yeah. And the only thing that hasn't served me well is, all the bullshit that I have to deal with online over the years, and every enemy that you make. And, I was actually sent something the other day, which I'm not even going to talk about. It was something that was written about me on some phony website. Basically just making up shit because we put these people out of business. Listen, that's the nature of telling the truth. You make a lot of enemies, but the reality is, you could also make a lot of money, and it's a pretty good feeling to make good money by letting people know and giving them insight on what the reality is. People just have not figured it out.
Let me tell you, you guys do it better than almost everybody out there. Than everybody out there, in my opinion. I want somebody to say who does it better than you guys, the truth, which is not. Suggestions, please, because you guys are top, number one. And I've researched a lot because of stuff that's happened in my life. But again, on the review that I was on, it really bothered me that there was after this guy put down his review, there was about maybe 2 or 3 young guys, 22, 21. One of them was 21. He started losing his hair at 18. Was saying, I'm so inspired by your review that I'm going to go ahead and book, go to Turkey and stuff. And that was killing me because I know what I went through and the pain and the suffering that I had because of a bad decision, not a bad decision. In my opinion, it was information that was wrong given to me by a doctor. And it just hurts me,
Well, listen, man.
You guys are really, you really should be proud of you guys, what you do.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, well, tell my accountant that. But yeah, every once in a while when I show him offers and you talk about review sites, I was offered a significant amount of money for our message forum, and it was going to be used. They wanted to use it as a hair transplant review site. And I'm just and essentially it's a capital asset of my company. So you're dealing with significant tax breaks on that money as a capital asset, and a significant amount of just cash just to say, all right, fuck it, I could have started another forum. I wouldn't have signed a non-compete, but I just knew what it was going to be, and it was really it was a company that wanted to really start doing reviews for hair transplant tourism. And I just couldn't live with myself doing that.
Good for you.
Well,
for you. I mean,
I was also in a situation where I didn't need to do it. Who knows? I mean, if I couldn't put bread on the table, I had to fucking feed my family and take care of my nephew and, and all the other shit that I got to deal with, and I wasn't able to. Maybe I would have taken it. I don't know.
yeah, well, with the money these guys are making, obviously you can tell there's such a big temptation to jump into anything like that because that's big money, especially now they're going to get, they put this $40 million they got in 2018. They're going to expand a lot. I was just hoping. That's why I kind of was first researching, because I know you guys, and I've been through this whole thing, and I've seen what good people, good information, real good information can do, and what kind of little biased information can also do.
Listen, man, I don't mean to cut you off, man, but your phone is kind of fucking up.
Yeah,
so,
well, I'm on my way. I had to get out of the door. I'm on my way to dinner, but keep up the good work, you guys. I just wanted to call you and let you know what my thoughts were on real self, and that you guys are still number one when it comes to the truth, big time.
I really appreciate that, man. Listen, thanks for the call. We'll talk soon.
Have a great night, guys. Keep up the good work.
Thanks a lot. Guys, phone number 888-659-3727. That's 888-659-3727. Guys are actually watching the program on our other resources besides Instagram. I'll eventually get a tripod for my phone. I know that this is a work light that I just kind of jerry-rigged to put my phone on. Deal with it. It's not the end of the world. It's not covering up my mic or my face or anything like that. Let's see who this is. Hey, you're on the air. Who's this and where are you calling from? Hey, man, what's up? Can you hear us?
Hello.
Hello.
Oh, hey guys, what's going on? I wasn't sure if I was going.
You are on. What's happening, man?
Hey, what's up, man? My name's Colin. I'm from Baltimore, and I'm going bald as fuck.
Sorry to hear that, man. What's happening?
It's all right. That's why we're all here, right? But I wanted to say I've been wanting to get on this show, and I love everything you guys do. Currently, right now, I've been taking Propecia on and off, and I finally stayed with it. Got over to psychosomatic order. I actually followed. Joe had some advice on one of his broadcasts about tapering on, taking it once a week, and I believe he said it was like the next month take it twice and then 3, and it really benefited a lot, and it just kind of.
What I also said was I'm not a doctor. It's just my opinion based on my experience. Okay, just got to make sure it's clear.
Yeah. But I was curious. The Try Guys review, that was an excellent video, and that guy, that hair transplant doctor, I was scared. I was terrified to go see that guy. But my question to you is that if he responded well to Propecia, and I believe you said the miniaturized hair grows back and comes thicker and fuller. I'm actually experienced it myself. I had like a bald spot in my head, and then it closed up. But then I got psyched myself out from the stuff you hear online, all the horror stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, from going on the fucking internet and being fear-mongered out of taking this drug, it's sad. It's really sad when I hear these stories.
Yeah, but then I was just like, and a lot of, I realize it can come from diet, alcohol, drinking, all stuff like that can affect you, and you might think it's from the Propecia. It's really just because you're taking piss poor care of your body. I know when you're eating healthy, getting like vitamin D, like it affects you totally different than if you're, out of shape, middle-aged male and take Propecia. You might think that these side effects are called from the drug, but it's actually just your lifestyle choice.
Are you kidding me? I mean, it's called, and this is, sorry if I'm being crude, guys. It's called whiskey dick, and it happens to 20-year-olds who drink too much.
Yeah, exactly.
What are you talking about? What?
The whiskey
it happens
dick.
to who? I never heard of this.
Just kidding. Question about the Try Guys man, if he responded well to and his hair grew back, what would he still potentially like be bad later in life if his hair? Because I know alopecia is like hair cement. Sometimes it can grow hair back, but if he keeps it there and fills everything back in, would he still be this? I'm seeing him be like a freak of nature if he goes bald and has to, you know what I mean?
I look at it like this. I mean, it's quite simple. Because he did start taking finasteride 1 month before surgery, which I think was a really bad idea. He should have started a year before surgery, because it could have saved like he may not have wanted surgery after that. Who knows? But if he continues to lose hair, like if finasteride for whatever reason doesn't seem to work for him, or he decides to quit because he like you starts, freaking himself out by reading the internet. Then he's fucked. He's fucked because he'll have to go in. He'll have to have another surgery. I mean, this kid, based on everything I saw, and I call him a kid. He's 28 years old, but he looks like he's 12.
I'm 28.
What I saw in that video when he's running his own hands through his hair is a Norwood 6. Like it's already forming. Like he's a diffused Norwood 6. I could see the pattern just in his existing hair as it is.
Look, I'm not afraid to say this, and I think it's important that it's said. And I happen to have nothing against the physician as far as on a personal level, and the equipment that was used for this guy. But I do not believe that this kid was either a candidate for hair transplant surgery, period. And I absolutely don't believe he was a candidate for robotic hair transplant surgery. I think that it was a horrible mistake on his part that I'm hoping doesn't turn out as bad as I think that it can. And I think that it was incredibly irresponsible, again, just my layman's opinion, for this physician not to say, listen, get on Propecia for at least a year, come back and let's see what happens. Because
how great of a video would that have been to have that consultation, and then fade to black, and then the text comes up 1 year later. Zach returns to the clinic, and he comes in, and it's this big, wow, look at this result. Okay, great. So now we to really show what a well thought out plan would mean for the patient, for Zach. I mean, I think that would be huge, and it would have. Education value alone is gold.
Well, one of the videos you posted, I believe it was Dr. Anarocha from Texas. I believe that's his name. You posted one. It blew my mind. It actually made me consider going to him as a doctor. My number one choice is Dr. Wong. Before I discovered you, his stuff is just amazing. But I believe it's the Hispanic gentleman. His hair, he looked like bald as hell, super thin, receding, and then I guess he did the year later, and his hair looks so full and thick, and I believe there was no product or those fibers you put in the hair, and that was an incredible video alone. And like you said, I totally agree. Yeah, it's like you do. I believe you posted I think maybe 2 months ago. It's like you're.
This is the wrap up review, the one that took me 3 years to actually get. Okay, yeah. Actually, yeah. That's a really good case. It's a beautiful work. I remember that video, literally 3 years in the making, and 2 years of that was phone calls and emails to this guy. Can you please come in? And he would come in and he'd be like, oh, I'm not ready to do the video yet. And it's like, oh, geez, it's like delaying this final video. And I was pulling my hair. I was so frustrated, but we finally got it. And it's like, it was worth the wait. It was really a beautiful.
Look, since we were on this Try Guy conversation, I had a conversation with a friend of mine. I think it was Tuesday night, and this person was totally invested in this video and this guy's journey. And when I told this person that, kind of explained more about surgical hair restoration. And this person was convinced that, wait a second, this is the answer. They found there's this robot now that cures hair loss, you know? And I just had to explain, look, it's a tool like anything else, and if it's all user dependent, and that this particular kid probably wasn't a candidate for any type of hair transplant surgery, at least at this point. The person was kind of disappointed. You know, they didn't recognize it, but this is how much influence these people have on millennials and younger people. You know,
like you said earlier,
one of the biggest things, one of the biggest problems I had with the video was the doctor doesn't even like to call it a procedure because it's or a surgery. He calls it a procedure, so it's so non-invasive. It's like, what? That's like, no, that's a complete marketing. I'm sorry. That is just complete horseshit. It's designed completely for and absolutely for marketing. The doctor has no clue about the history of surgical hair restoration to begin with. And he probably doesn't have any experience with strip surgery. And so he's in a position to say, oh, it's so superficial. We're just taking out, little 1 millimeter. It's like, no, that's 20 square centimeters of open wound if it's a 2,000 graft extraction.
You have to realize that the confluence of scarring of a significant FUE procedure it takes up so much greater surface area on someone's scalp than a linear scar. And your head is being cut. They just happen to be using a robot with a round scalpel, a punch, to essentially cut your head open, just thousands of times.
And that hairdresser that recommended this to Zach, like he had two concerns: one, that it's surgery, and two, that there's scarring, and this takes care of both. I want to slap
that. Was really politically incorrect, by the
way. Well, I gotta say, I really would like to have a hair transplant, but I want to do everything correct. My plan was to see what my hair looks like in 2 years, because obviously I gotta, like you said, I don't want to jump in there gung ho. I get a full hairline filled in, and then the rest back of my hair falls out, and I look like a clown or something. But with the knowledge that I've come across myself, a lot of it is from your website, Joe, and some of your videos. Sorry, Spencer, I know you said earlier that people only want to talk to Joe, but I just had a question for him.
I was actually joking, but thank you for that.
He's joking. But I appreciate it.
That's it. But to me, I feel like the strip surgery is the best way to go when you're first starting it, if you progressively go bald later, because I believe in some of your videos, Joe, you discuss about how that FUE is a bunch of holes in your head. So if you go balder, you have less chance of another surgery because you don't have any donor area. And with the strip, you can go back in. And honestly, say if I was one of those ones that got it, I don't know if you're familiar, Joe Rogan he's bald now, and he has a hair transplant, and he has a scar on his back of his head. Doesn't look that bad. It's not like, oh God, but I've seen the millions of tiny little bumps on people. It's like I'd rather have.
Let me tell you this. Joe used to live, or he still does, but in very close to me. And there was a time when we had communication. I'll tell you how old we are, through MySpace. And his question was about camouflaging the scar. And honestly, my response was, this is what you can do. But I mean, I was like, you're Joe fucking Rogan, man. If you want to shave your head, shave your head. I mean, the guy is fucking, he's in great shape. And all you're going to have is a linear scar. If there's a good scar on the back of your head, it's not the end of the world. I would see him like in the Calabasas Commons or in other places, and I never really wanted to kind of go up to him, and I just didn't want to bother him with his family, even though we were in communication. But I was like right behind him several times, and once at the at LAX. Yeah, the scar is pretty significant, but it's almost like you wouldn't even think about it twice. It's just like, oh, he must have banged his head, or maybe he had some sort of procedure. It's just, on the back of his head. And the guy looks fantastic. So
It's
to
better
me,
than mine. Mine doesn't stand out. Of course, he shaves his to the bone.
In your latest video you posted, I believe you got your crown filled in some more. You can't even see the scars. I mean, but I obviously probably have to go with the surgeon you pick and everything of that nature too, because like you said, a lot of people, males are pretty prone to balding, especially if you work out or you're in the gym. You see people on steroids, that accelerates their hair loss. So it's kind of like friends and company talk about, these alternatives, what I want to do. And so many people just go type in Google and don't do any of their research. And like you said, they don't find out about the preventative measures, what to do, because you just can't get a hair transplant. You got to first see if you respond to finasteride. Because I actually have a coworker, his transplant, I think looks great. He's like, I think he's 60 years old. His hair, he looks like Gene Simmons, not receded, maybe younger, really long hair. Now, I believe he said, I think he just got a kind of a bad transplant, because he told me he had 3 procedures. One was a botched job, and the other 2 were strip surgery got in Miami. But this is before, you guys, and you're finding out the internet and doing so much research. But with that said, they'll just look at an Instagram view and then go to Turkey. And there's this guy, I don't want to knock anybody, but I'm familiar, you were discussing your previous shows, Spence, about how people think that they're they start a YouTube channel and they're the hair transplant guru and they give bad advice. I forget his name, called Matt Licious or something. He has a Swedish accent. I don't know if you guys are familiar with him, but
you just combine 2 YouTubers.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's 2 different names of 2 different YouTubers combined into one. That was
I think you're talking about Matt Damien.
No, it's Matt Dominance.
Yeah,
Matt Dominance, not Dominance. Yeah.
He doesn't use finasteride, and I'm like, dude, your hair looks thin. It just got plugged in. And he doesn't. I don't know how it could be a spokesperson for hair loss when he doesn't take the drug, and he's telling people about, I flew to, Turkey, and in your videos, Joe, how you describe about how a natural hairline. I think you're discussing how there's ones. I think they're thin. Excuse me, my knowledge is not the best date, and it's 2. It's just basically so when it blends in, it doesn't look horrible. And his hairline looks strange. Doesn't look like the Kyle Christie guy you always make fun of, but it just doesn't look natural. And then another thing he recommended, because there's another guy, you might be familiar with him, his name's Hairliciously. One thing I did like from his video was just kind of added preventative stuff. It's not proven. The derma rolling. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that, guys.
Do you even watch the fucking show? Somebody in the chat room in my Instagram just said that their wife wants to stop cursing.
I don't catch every show. I'm sorry. I normally catch the highlights and the clips. I just started recently watching live. Apologize.
Listen. Just to talk about, and actually my phone's about to die. Instagram people, so I'll probably have to. It's just going to cut off. But I don't like to badmouth these YouTubers. I understand what they're trying to do. There's a niche there, and it is relatively easy to become an influencer, especially if you're a younger person who's relating to, young hair loss sufferers, someone who's decided to actually take the plunge and have surgery. So a lot of these young guys are able to relate to them. So they utilize this. This is a way for them to make money. This is a way for them to gain attention. And this is a way for them to discuss their experience with others who are interested in it. And it's not that difficult to build that type of following when you're in that situation. Now, with that said, they work really hard. They put a lot of work into their content. But you are absolutely right. I mean, these are kids. These are kids that don't understand the long-term consequences of having surgery at a young age. These are also kids who have never been in the industry, who don't know where all the bodies are buried, who don't really know the reality of what they even went through. and
Right.
what the consequences are going to be for their lives. I will tell you, it will not, in most cases, be good, especially with that particular kid, because he is not currently taking any medication that's going to help prevent further hair loss. The decision to go to Turkey and to the clinic that, I don't even know the clinic he went to, at least according to people like yourself and other people who viewed his videos, and I think even himself, he'll talk about how his hairline doesn't necessarily appear to be natural. And that's sad to me. It's sad that, that he had to go through that, and what's going to transpire in the next few years probably won't be great. And sadly, a lot of young guys are following these people, and they're going to take that plunge because, hair transplant surgery should not be cheap. This is elective surgery, period.
Yeah.
You shouldn't be going for the cheap. If you were going for heart bypass surgery, you wouldn't be like, yeah, you know what? Let's see if we can find a Groupon offer. That's just reality.
My current regimen is I'll take finasteride every other day, and I do minoxidil twice a day. And my friends who are hairstylists from growing up in high school and stuff, I wash my hair every third day for the natural oils, but I know it counteracts with the minoxidil. I haven't had issues with dry scalp, but I wanted to add in a oil. Just obviously, I know the only two that really proven it's going to help you is finasteride and possibly minoxidil will give you the peach fuzz. But I was exploring the possibility of natural oils, maybe just to make the hair fuller and thicker. I know, Spencer, you said that you never had transplant. You just take care of your hair. Do you, if you don't mind me asking, do you have any special shampoos or oils or any treatments that you do to keep the hair that you have? Because it looks great.
Yeah, that's a trade secret, by the way. So no, I don't do anything special. For years, I used to use whatever shampoo was in the shower because I wasn't doing any shopping. And, now I just use either, and I tend to go for a more natural types of shampoos, but I don't believe in the whole sulfate thing. It's not going to cause you to have any damaged hair. I just use either a moisturizing shampoo or even, a slight thickening shampoo. And that's it. I barely condition my hair. If I condition it too much, then I can't do the whole cover-up like I like to do. So
it's kind of clumpy and
right. So
heavy.
when I do condition it, I will condition it before I shampoo it. That's my secret for the silky, beautiful hair that I have, which is not. And actually, it is like a rock-hard helmet of ridiculousness. You cannot. There is not a woman on this planet who is going to enjoy touching my hair. Maybe the back, maybe the back of it. And my hair has not moved since 1987. I'm okay with that.
Right.
I'm just glad that I could keep most of it on my head.
Now, do you ever use minoxidil?
I used minoxidil for years. That was the first thing.
Used it for about 6 weeks back in 1996, and then I actually read the box, and it said may cause heart palpitations. Nope, thanks, bye.
Yeah, I used it for a long time. Actually, the makers of Rogaine sponsored the Ball of Truth for years when I was on the radio, and I was using the product. And then, what was interesting is I decided to wean off it while they were still sponsoring the broadcast. And they were cool with it. They continued to sponsor the show. And the reason I decided to wean off of it is because I felt I was getting a lot of scalp inflammation. I wasn't sure.
Really?
Yeah, I wasn't sure whether or not it was continuing to work. It was kind of like a Band-Aid. And I had already transitioned on to finasteride, which did not exist when I started. And I kind of figured, you know what? Let me not throw the kitchen sink at this and see how finasteride continues to work. And it was a great decision for me. So I am not a fan of using both medications. All topicals are a pain in the fucking ass. first of all.
Yeah. I hate. I mean, with my bald spot in the back, it's very small, but when I apply it in there, it's like my hair shoots up like alfalfa, and it's like, So what I used to do now is like, because it says leave it for 4 hours, I'll do it super early in the morning, so I go to the gym, work out, then I can wash the shit out of my hair, because you're talking about that shit is really hard to style your hair with. But I just figured, I was on and off it, but after watching a lot of Joe's videos, I was like, I'm going off of this psychosomatic stuff. I'm going on finasteride, and everything's going fine. But I was like, you know what? I might as well just throw in minoxidil. It's not expensive. See what it's doing and everything. And I will say I did suffer some side effects, but nothing that was like from finasteride. Nothing alarming, but because I was taking it every day. But then when I cycled down to every other day, everything went back to normal. So
listen, man, we're gonna. I'm gonna. It's so funny. I fucked up. Sorry, guys. On Instagram, I had my mic on, so no one was able to hear you talk. I'm just sitting here in silence.
I just envisioned that.
Not the entire broadcast. Sorry about that, guys. But this whole thing is jerry-rigged so that you guys on Instagram can actually hear the broadcast as well. So I have to basically push my mic on and off so that you guys can hear the callers and Joe through my monitors, which, for those who don't know radio, monitors are also speakers, not just like video monitors. But listen, dude, we're going to let you go. We're going to take some more calls. My phone's about to die anyway.
Yeah, no problem. Sorry, guys, I didn't mean to bore you out. I just want to say thanks for everything.
No, you didn't bore us. No, not at all. Good hearing from you.
I really appreciate everything you've done. Spence, you really helped me out with your website. And Joe, I really respect all your videos. It really helped me a lot. And actually look at possible suitors for a surgery. God bless you all. You have a great night.
Man, thanks a lot. God bless you as well. And God bless America.
Thank you.
All right.
Bye.
Bye. Phone number 888-659-3727. Guys, my phone may die, so I'm just going to let it run until the phone dies on Instagram. Let's see who this is. Hey, you're on the air. Who's this, and where are you calling from?
Hey, guys. It's John calling from Phoenix.
Hello, John.
John, how are you, man?
Hey, doing good. So I'm just calling with some questions about some of the realities or options of hair transplantation. So I've never had a procedure. I haven't even talked to a hair transplant doctor, right? Just trying to collect as much information just to be as best prepared as possible. So listening to the last caller talking about, FUT sort of being a good option, it just got me thinking. And while you guys were talking to him, I started Googling some stuff, but I couldn't really find a lot of info. So with an FUT scar, right, that prone to stretching or growing over time? Or is it just, no, it doesn't do that? Okay.
Once it forms, it takes several months for it to form and finalize. Different doctors will tell you different timelines, 6 months, 8 months, 1 year. But it also has to do with your own physiology. But once it's set, and it's set if there's like no pinkness, no redness, no discoloration, it's just white, and that's pretty much locked in, then it's done. There's no, like, you would have to have deliberate constant traction on either side of that scar for the scar to actually expand. So it's pretty much done.
And you, like Joe said, you would actually know that you have what's called stretch back or scar stretching pretty early on in the game.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Well, that's sort of relieving, I guess. And another question I had, somewhat limited, related, is the option of body hair transplants. Now, I've read about this, people doing beard transplants and things like this. And from all the results I've seen, they really don't look very great because the texture of beard hair in particular is so different.
I've said this for at least 15 years. Body hair on the head looks like, wait for it, body hair on the head. Every time. If it's tight and curly on your chest and you want to put it on your head, guess what? You got yourself a fro. That's just the way it works.
No,
yeah.
Fair enough.
Now,
and I figured
there is anecdotal evidence. I've seen a couple of cases where maybe the hair that's transplanted, and this kind of flies in the face of the old school theory of donor dominance, where this theory dictates that the hair from the donor area, and this is assuming you're talking about the scalp, is dominant over the recipient area. In other words, the cause of hair loss for the top of the scalp doesn't affect, DHT doesn't affect the donor hair, but it also has to do with the caliber, the characteristics of the hair.
Spit it out.
And so it's been found that that's not entirely true, and it's been reinforced by the transplantation of, say, chest hair to the scalp, where, say, chest hair might grow, we'll say 2 inches on the chest. It can grow even longer on the scalp. I'm actually living proof of that because Dr. Wong, back in 2006, he and his technicians took out like 100 grafts from my chest, placed them into a very small area on my crown, and they're still growing to this day, and they grow just as long as the rest of my hair.
But I have a question for you, Joe. Does that really fly in the face of the theory of donor dominance? Because donor dominance does, at least from what I understand of donor dominance, it doesn't necessarily dictate the hair characteristics as opposed to it being DHT resistant and not miniaturizing.
Well, that's the original, but I've heard doctors talk about how this kind of integrates into that entire theory, and so what it shows is that the reason why it flies in the face of it is that the recipient area dictates the behavior of the hair itself. So the DHT issue, yeah, but they're talking about how the donor dominance issue is kind of weakened when the recipient area dictates how the hair grows as far as the characteristics, the length.
I just wanted to see you tap dance with that. I know you know what you're talking about.
Good try. But yeah, so I hope that answers your question.
It does. So a couple of follow-ups. One I had and one I just saw Benny in the chat bring up. So can you transplant body hair, or in particular beard hair, into FUT scar area and have it look half decent?
You can if you are the perfect storm. But I would say that in more cases than not, if you get a 30 to 40% decent yield, you're pretty lucky. And you need a decent amount of hair to be moved for it to really be effective. And you just don't know, man. You're taking a significant chance. Joe may not agree with me. Joe's had 9 hair transplants, or 10 now.
10
himself. But all I can tell you is based on all of the evidence and all of the thousands of people who have contacted us through the Bald Truth and the IHRS, the American Hair Loss Association, and this radio broadcast for more than 21 years, a lot of these motherfuckers out there, a lot of these doctors are just selling you a dream. They're like, we're not sure if it's going to work, but we're happy to charge you $7,500 to give it a shot.
Yeah. Let's just throw through a few grafts in there, see what happens.
Right.
$7,500, please. Thank you very much. And let me add to this. And this goes along with a question that's asked in the chat room. You just asked the same question. My doc recommended beard hair into my FUT scar. Do you believe that would blend in okay? Well, so what the caller's asking, or John's asking about, is the growth. And yeah, like Spencer said, it is. I don't think it's. Well, I'll say this. Doctors that work with beard hair or body hair will tell you that scalp hair is king, then beard hair, then chest hair, and everything else is a distant fourth, and way down the line. Beard hair into the scar, it can work really well. I've seen cases where it's worked really well, but the yield it's not expected to be as high as if you put, scalp hair into it. And even scalp hair into the donor scar is going to be tricky. How do I know? Well, my own case, I just had it done, and we put 100 grafts into the occipital donor zone or donor scar. And do I expect a full growth? No. Do I expect an improvement? Yeah, but I just don't know how much. And in fact, I consider it to be an experiment, because honestly, across the board, it's all an experiment. Like
Right.
anyone that's saying that they're putting beard hair or scalp hair or whatever into a donor scar, it's all experimental, because no one does this every day like they're doing just regular transplants. It's always a rare occurrence in these clinics to have someone coming in where they're putting beard hair or scalp hair into a donor scar. It's just not that commonly done. And to qualify that further, anyone you're talking to about putting some sort of hair into a donor scar, ask for 10 examples of successful cases. Just 10. That's all you need to do.
And stop reading the fucking forums.
No, dude, I'm off the forums. These are just sort of ideas that sort of they just you got hair here, you don't have hair here. Why can't you use that hair? They're sort of like questions that ask themselves. So one last question on the whole body hair question. What about the use of chest hair or non-beard body hair for transplantation specifically into temple points, right? I mean, because you'd be better off saving your precious donor hair for up top, no? I mean, I haven't read or seen much information about this.
I got to interrupt you right now. That would be one of the biggest possible mistakes, and in my view, anybody could make. And Joe, you've had your temporal points reconstructed. The angulation and the difficulty for a physician to actually make that hair look good in that area is fucking hard with scalp hair. Can you imagine if you had kink or curl or any type of deviation from your naturally occurring hair behind your temporal points
even
in your
if
temples?
the hair, even if the curl and texture and everything is spot on, perfect matching, what about the color? Because the color is oftentimes different. And I'll say this. I think that of all the things that have been done on my own scalp, my temple points are about as perfect as they can be surgically. Like the flat angle, the blending, I could not possibly be happier with how my temple points turned out. If chest hair were to be used, I would be one of those cases where, assuming good growth, that it would look okay, because my chest hair isn't like this curly, nappy, really curly, like hair looked like it came from someone else. It's fairly straight, and it's fairly medium to dark brown if it's not white. And it would work, but then there's the color issue. Again, assuming good growth. That's not very common as far as the characteristics of chest hair. Most people have fairly wavy or curly hair. Mine's like mildly wavy. So,
and in my particular problem is that I have the chest of a 10-year-old Swedish boy. So I have like maybe 4 hairs that could be transplanted, but they're straight. They might match.
Yeah, they might match. But I understand where you're coming from. But your questions, your questions are the kind of questions that people would ask, that haven't really delved deeply into this. And it makes sense. Like, you've obviously not talked to someone that really knows about this, because these are logical questions. They really are. But when you dig deeper and you start to learn about the shortcomings of the approach that you're asking about, then it just doesn't make any sense. It's just wipe it off your radar, because it's not. And again, it comes down to, okay, it sounds good, makes sense. Show me 10 examples. I've seen one case of body hair placed into a hairline, or like a frontal hairline area, because there are several hairlines on your scalp, and it was done. Are you waving at me? I just saw you wave.
I waved off. I said goodbye to everyone on Instagram.
Oh, okay. I've seen one case of body hair. It was actually leg hair used to reconstruct or soften a hairline, and it was done about 15 years ago. And I've not seen a case like it since from the same clinic or from anyone else. And it was Dr. Umar. I actually met the patient in person, and it was fantastic. Fantastic.
Wow.
I've not seen a single case from him or anyone else since that matched that case. So that's how rare it is. And I've been doing this, like I've met thousands of people that have had hair transplants, and it just doesn't exist out there. So he was definitely a one-off. He was an anomaly. And if I saw 5 more like him, I would be floored. I would be shocked because it just doesn't happen. So that should tell you how much of a stretch it is to say, yeah, we're going to use body hair for your temples or your hairline or whatever. I take that back, actually. Dr. Cole has a great case of a body, I think a chest and back hairline. Dr. Cole has a great case out there. Never met him, but it looks great. But that's it. So it's super rare because it's not very reliable.
Yeah, no, I'm willing to accept that and move on from it. But I was curious as to whether it's not seen often because doctors don't attempt it, or is it that you're saying a good result is seldom seen? Which is it? Just out of curiosity.
Both. Few doctors are attempting this on a regular basis, and few doctors are getting results that in my view are worthy of saying that they're good results. Like if it stands out as if the area that was transplanted just stands out in some way from the rest of the hair, it's a failure. It shouldn't stand out. It needs to blend. You need to be able to look at it and question, is that a hair transplant or is that is it natural? If you can't tell, then it's a success. It comes down to that, and they just aren't out there.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Fair enough.
I hate to burst your bubble, man, but
you kind of become numb to it. With hair loss, every week or two, you have another idea. You look into it, and it ends the same way, right? In disappointment and a dead end for the most part. And you sort of forced to return.
I've seen these questions online. Like it kind of like it recycles every maybe couple years. A discussion will get started. It's like, hey, what if we use body hair to soften a hairline? Like they have this eureka moment, like they're the first person to think of this, right? Meanwhile, it's been around, on the web for 15, 20 years, people talking about this exact same shit. And
interesting.
And it's the same answer. Here we are 20 years later, or almost 20 years later, and no one's able to do it on a regular basis with a high degree of success.
Right. Okay. Well, cool. No, I mean it's I'm better off knowing than pretending.
Absolutely.
So
yeah.
I appreciate the answer.
Yeah, no worries.
I guess I'll cut it off there. Thanks again, guys.
All right, thanks for calling.
Good luck. Thanks for the call.
All
right.
Thanks. Have a good one.
Bye-bye. All right, you want to call tonight?
Oh, what time is it?
4:44, man.
We got another caller?
Not right now, but now you said that, it's going to ring.
Well, I'll tell you what. If we don't get a call in the next 10 seconds, then let's wrap it up.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Phones are off.
And you were reaching over before we got to 0.
Yeah, right. It's funny. There's a guy in fucking Instagram who's like, dude, there's 5 people here. Is it even worth it? Yeah, it's worth it.
Well, we're starting.
Maybe those 5 people need fucking guidance. Maybe we saved those 5 people's lives.
That's
that's
the way to look at it.
That is the problem with this fucking culture. If you don't have 2,000 people on a live stream on Instagram, it's worthless. Not when it comes to what we do, motherfuckers.
Well, that's just unfortunate for them because they don't get that. They don't understand it.
They don't. I'm actually just checking myself out on Instagram. What you looking at, Spence? This guy sounds like a real something. I gotta look him. I gotta look his ass up. Anyway, guys, Joe's gonna give out the websites today.
Websites. Let's start with our French supporters, international-hairlossforum.com. It is a French hair loss and hair restoration forum where clinics are sharing their results and patients are sharing their experiences about their hair loss journey and their hair restoration experience. Great supporter of what we're doing, and they allow us to stream this broadcast through their web property. That's international-hairlossforum.com. Next up, we've got bellicapelli.forumfree.it. That's the Italian hair loss and hair restoration forum. Again, clinics sharing their results and patients really passionately sharing their experiences. And the great thing about this forum is that the owner, a very good friend of mine, I've known him for over 15 years. He's a repair patient, and he's very passionate about helping other people find the right answer for their needs. That's bellicapelli.forumfree.it. Thank you for supporting this program. Finally, we got hairlossexperiences.com. Sorry, that's hairlossexperiences.com. It's the UK-based hair loss and hair restoration forum. Again, clinics sharing results, patients sharing experiences, and the owner of that forum, also a great supporter of what we're doing and allowing us to broadcast through his web property, and a repair patient working probably harder than anyone I know behind the scenes helping other repair patients find the solutions for their own problems. So go check them out, all three of them. This one was hairlossexperiences.com, and we appreciate their support.
I guess it's on me now to do the rest.
It's on you.
Guys, it's thebaldtruth.com for archives of this broadcast. Check out thebaldtruth.com if you are interested in interacting with other hair loss sufferers. Feel free to use our message forum, which is baldtruthtalk.com. Remember, look, it's a message forum. Whatever you read on a message forum, you need to take with a grain of salt. We do our best to moderate the forum, to make sure that you're not being sold a bill of goods and a bunch of bullshit. However, you still have to do your own due diligence. We have no PMing system. Everything's out there, completely transparent. Whatever you see on there is the only place that people are able to communicate. So if you can't deal with that, there are plenty of other message forums out there that allow clandestine sales behind the scenes and technicians and consultants trying to outprice their competitors, and their PMing system and all that stuff. That might be a better place for you. But if you want a transparent experience, feel free to check out baldtruthtalk.com. And again, don't spend too much time in the forums. You can check it out once a day, whatever you want. That's great. We appreciate the traffic, but do not spend your life on these places. They are essentially toxic. And I know that's counterintuitive for most people who would own a message forum, and they would never say that, but that's just the truth, and you guys need to know it. The International Alliance of Hair Restoration Surgeons is IAHRS.org. If you are considering surgical hair restoration, it is a great first place to start learning about doctors and doing your research. But you need to meet with physicians. You need to meet with their patients. You need to possibly speak with as many patients as possible of the physician who you are considering, or the few physicians you're considering. I'm a fan of in-person consultations. If you're going to be spending, $15,000, $20,000 on a hair transplant, why the fuck would you not get on a plane to sit there and allow the doctor to actually assess you? I don't know why you wouldn't do that, but most of you don't. So that's IAHRS.org. The American Hair Loss Association is AmericanHairLoss.org. Anything and everything hair loss, check out the American Hair Loss Association. We are the most referenced hair loss organization in the world. There's not a day that goes by, almost, that we are not referenced by some mainstream media or someone in the blogosphere. And we just put something in stone today for the first time. That's actually going to be written in stone elsewhere on mainstream medical sites, which is interesting. Joe knows all about that.
Yes, it's exciting, actually.
Yeah. So, all right, guys, listen, we're going to go. Oh, shit. Because he doesn't do it himself. Let me talk about Joe Tillman's websites. That's hairtransplantmentor.com. Hold on. Hairtransplantmentor.com. That is everything Joe Tillman. One of the best hair transplant websites, I believe, on the internet, or interwebs, as Joe would say. Everything Joe Tillman. I mean, listen, mine are better always, but Joe's are pretty good. No, listen, I don't have the patience to do what Joe does. That's why he's part of what we do. I was like, you know what? Fuck it. Let him do the work. And he's doing a great job of it. So please,
thank you.
If you are interested in really learning about someone's real journey, check out Joe. He's the man. Hairtransplantmentor.com. He is now up to 10 hair transplants. I have 0 hair transplants. None. Nada.
That's a contrast.
That is absolutely the reality, my reality, and my fortunate reality, because I was not stupid enough to have a hair transplant at a young age, which would have fucked me up like it fucked up Joe, and then I would have had to have 8 fucking repair surgeries to look normal. Now, I'm not saying I look normal. I'm not saying that. But I do my best with what I have. Today is a little less than a half a can of hairspray to get it to be the way that it is. And that's it. That's how I live my life. What am I going to do? Joe Tillman's YouTube page is youtube.com/hair transplant mentor. Now, we are trying to get that page to grow. Right now, he has 11,000 subscribers because we have to start to compete with these guys on YouTube who are unfortunately steering you guys in a fucking dangerous direction. So I decided, you know what? Joe's, quite a bit younger than I am. I don't know how much longer I want to do this. So let's build up his presence. Now, I'm not just saying that the show did it. Obviously, he has a great presence on his own, but we are trying to do it through the broadcast as well. So we air the broadcast live on his channel. That's youtube.com/hair transplant mentor. Jeez, I'm getting old. I didn't eat much all day. And subscribe, ring that bell so that you can actually get notifications when we are live. And I think that's it, right?
I believe so.
All right, guys.
Well
listen,
said.
Until next time, be strong. God bless. And thank you so much for listening. And we will see you probably on Tuesday unless something really bad happens. So
I believe so.
Have a good weekend.
Good night.
Thank you very much. I'm sorry for any inconvenience you may have been put to prior to the program, and I'm glad you enjoyed it. And if you could now leave by the exits at the rear, that'd be splendid. Thank you. Good night.